Hello, everybody, and welcome. So, a couple of months ago now, feels like a very long time ago, John and I started doing these videos about the coronavirus lockdown and everything that we were going through back then. Yeah, we just wanted to follow up with a few episodes of just what's happening now and how have things been and what has the experience been like for us all. So, yeah, I don't know. John, how are you dealing with everything?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it does feel a bit strange having kind of not been out for so long, but I guess I guess we kind of got into a rhythm and a routine, and so you don't really kind of think about that too much. I kind of think that my experience through my life, I've had periods of kind of where I've been more isolated and not going out very much. Just by virtue of being a bit isolated and it being harder to go to places and make new friends, I think when I came back from university, I had a period where I wasn't going out very much, and I think in a way that's kind of prepared me for this. So I kind of feel like I'm not too bothered, like emotionally or psychologically, about the kind of about the lockdown. I mean, sure, it would be nice to get out and about again, but I think I felt like able to find things to do and to keep myself occupied. So I felt kind of not too bad about it. But I think the main thing is just kind of, not being able to see friends and family in person. And I'm kind of looking forward to when it will be all over. But I'm still able to manage for now, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting scenario because I felt at the beginning, a lot of people in the community sort of said, oh, this is our normal. This is all right for us. But then it kind of went back and forth as to, well, actually, I think it was a lot tougher for certain elements and certain aspects of that. And I feel like it's gone back and forth with how people have found it and kind of been able to cope with it. We're joined by Lucy and Bryan today. Do you guys want to maybe introduce yourselves, and then I don't know, how have you been dealing with everything?
Hello, so I'm Lucy. I have a life-limiting neuromuscular disease. It's quite rare and unique. So we don't actually know quite what it is, but lockdown has been an interesting situation. As someone who spent 5 years bedbound for most of my teenage years, it's not an unusual situation, but I think what is unusual, obviously, people would come and see me in those 5 years, whereas now I've been very separated. And I do miss that social interaction. My mum is wonderful and she's a big support. My nurses are wonderful. My carers are wonderful. But I miss seeing people that are there and see you because they want to see you, because you're friends, not because they have to be there in a way. I miss that freedom, I suppose.
Hi, I'm Bryan. I've got DMD and I've got a trachea. Lockdown's been strange and tricky at times, and have a bit less chaos, not been great. Try to get that back up eventually, but I've had, strangely, been given, my staff have to use extra PPE when they're doing tracky stuff, like shields and gowns and stuff, which is quite odd. Series, I feel like I'm the only person doing it, but that's an ongoing discussion we're having just now, but it's been strange. But I got to go out today for a walk, so that's helped a bit.
So I've seen lots of the kind of elements of, how people have been going through this lockdown. And I feel like for a lot of the younger families, they've been able to kind of lock down completely and not let anyone in the house. Obviously, for older people in the in the community, that's not possible because you need care. So for me, there's been this kind of almost kind of weirdly perverse, topsy-turvy kind of situation where you guys might feel like you'd need more to lock down completely and not let people in, but actually you kind of have to because of care. I know that's certainly a big element for my brother. What have you guys made of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of pluses and minuses to being able to lock down completely or not. So I haven't really had the choice to completely lock down because I live well, I live with my husband, but he doesn't provide my care, and it wouldn't be possible for a single person to take on all of my care. My needs are just too high, so I don't really have a choice but to keep my kind of my care package in place, and the PAs coming in. I've done what I can to kind of provide the PPE and to kind of minimize the number of people coming in, but yeah, ultimately I haven't been able to do the lockdown. I think it would be nice to have that security of being able to lock down completely, but equally it would have restricted my life a lot. So I think in a way I'm not too sorry that I haven't been able to, because I think I just think it's made life a little bit easier to manage. And I think it's made things a little bit more bearable as well. Maybe that's made a difference to me feeling less isolated. That it's not just kind of like two or three people in the house. It's several people. So but I'm not too like sad that I haven't been able to. I think it's been beneficial to keep my care going, really.
Same for me. My mum can't do 24 hours a day care, staying up till late in the night, getting up throughout the night. She can't do that. And I've had to have those other supports in. But like you say, John, having those people coming in, having that outside perspective, having those conversations, people bringing the outside world to you, I think, in a way, is quite beneficial. And I've got really good relationships, as you do, with my staff, with my nurses and my carers, and their perspectives have been very useful in kind of maintaining kind of social interaction. I also, just before lockdown started, recruited, or just as lockdown was in process, that recruited a new team of nurses. So I had a whole new team of people coming in, and actually not all the team have been able to join me, but having only a few of those nurses start has actually given them time to get used to me. But also, if I was going out to all my events, it'd be very hard for them to settle into their role, because obviously they'd be doing IVs on the go in an event in the middle of a conference. They've got time to settle in with me at home, get used to things. So there's been a benefit to lockdown for me in a way that's given a chance for those staff to settle in. And that social side of it has been really powerful. And I think it's just, I love spending time with my mum. My mum, I've got really good relationships, so I don't mind being stuck indoors. My work's carried on, as I expect both of yours has. Work hasn't stopped, meetings haven't stopped, the NHS work hasn't stopped, the charity stuff hasn't stopped. I've been busy, and I use distraction as a major source of coping. So I think just keeping busy has kept me really focused and functioning. And I think when I spent those 5 years bedbound, a decade ago, that was really hard because I didn't really have a focus. Whereas now, because I've got so much to do, and I am talking to people on Zoom, and I am seeing people, at home through my care team, it doesn't quite feel like lockdown for me.
Yeah. What about you, Brian? Have you managed to keep things normal in terms of your care? Or what kind of adaptations have you had to make?
We, through choice, cut down to just 2 visits a day just now, and for longer days. But it's been 3 months now. We're going to have to look at getting it back. It's got a bit too much for our parents. But at start with, we just decided to do that just to make it a bit safer for everybody.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. That was similarly with my brother. Obviously, I was doing most of his care just exclusively at that point in time when lockdown happened, and our mother kind of decided to step in for some of the time as well. So it's been kind of both of us. But I do think that if Andrew had his usual big team of carers, as he has had for a lot of the time in the last 7 or 8 years, he probably would have cut down. Everyone's doing things differently, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just a pity how it happened, because I was looking about getting more of the house and things and get a bigger care team, but that's been postponed till next year, I think.
Yeah, it has put certain things on hold and kind of, yeah, we've all had to kind of suspend parts of our lives and
But I
not
think
really be able to think about
uh,
the future too far.
it's been a bit harder for me because we get 2 staff at mat leave, so we'll try to interview people and get people in the door, which has been tricky.
I see. If maybe one final thing to look back on, what I'd say is, what are there any things that at this point in time now you'd look back on and say you would do this differently, or there's something you'd do differently, or something you'd change? Are there any elements that you change, or are we still too, early into this to look back to say if it happened again, are there things that you're pleased about, things that you change?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've kind of responded to this in the best way that I can, really. I think, there was a lot of uncertainty at the beginning in terms of when to start the shielding, I suppose, and maybe I would have started things a little sooner. And I think I've gradually figured out the best way to use PPE. So it wasn't just a case of getting the masks and gloves and then you're okay. It's kind of like looking at other ways to keep things sanitized, but also kind of helping staff understand the PPE and how to use it, and kind of best practice, really, because a lot of people aren't really used to using it. So it's or they may have done an infection control course, but that's kind of if they've then kind of worked in a setting where they haven't really had to use much PPE, which I didn't before, then it's kind of it's easy to forget that, and kind of so yeah, I think maybe making sure that was clearer and supporting people at the beginning maybe. I mean, I know I went out the week before lockdown. I went to London and met up with a friend. Went to a bar, and I got wondering maybe I shouldn't have done that. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have made that decision, but I think broadly I've just been learning as I go and adapting. If I think about doing things in a different way, I've done it as soon as I've been aware of that, really.
Same for me as well, John. I think I've just learned as best I can of how I've gone along. I probably wouldn't have gone to a couple of the events I went to just before lockdown. I probably would have thought differently about things. But I was in a meeting the other day with some colleagues, and actually they said that, people like us are probably the most well-equipped for something like this, because we do have that knowledge, we do have that understanding. We've been able to support our staff a lot better. And I think everyone's learning as we go along. No one knows what they're doing. I don't think anyone really knew what this was going to be like, how it was going to pan out. We still don't know how long this is going to go on for. I don't think I would change anything, except I probably would have shielded a bit earlier. And maybe I would have stocked up on more PPE earlier, I think, because it's been trying to hoover up supplies from lots of different companies.
Yep.
And, even alcohol gel, the alcohol gel that I buy, $4.99, $5.99 a bottle is now about £12-15 a bottle. I would have bought more of that before, but I just didn't realise this would go on so long. I didn't realise, obviously, at the time. By the time I kind of clocked on to needing more PPE, the limitations were in place about how much you could apply. And I did try to get the NHS supply chain to provide people like us, but because we're individual employers, even though we're funded by the NHS, they wouldn't cover it.
Regarding PPE, I've been quite lucky because I use a care company to employ my carers, so they provide it all, the council provide it all, so I'm quite lucky that way. It was a change in. I went to that hospital appointment the week before lockdown. No, 2 weeks before lockdown, I thought I was going to win the max. It's far too busy and scary in that hospital stuff at the time. I don't think it would change much, maybe. I don't know what would change, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've seen similar to you, Bryan, on PPE, and my Andrew's CCG has been good at providing things like masks and gloves and everything that we need. But in terms of, I think there definitely have been points where PPE wasn't provided for a lot of people in the country who needed it, and supplies were low, and then people were even being kind of shamed by, well, you're using too much, or you're wearing it out and about and you shouldn't be, and all this sort of thing. I'd like to think that this was because we never expected a pandemic like this, in reality, right now. So hopefully, next time around, that wouldn't be a thing. But, time will only tell, really, won't it? And moving on, I don't know, John, what do you think, now as lockdown is starting to ease, but we're still in this kind of interim step for families who are shielding as to sort of half in, half out type thing? There's not a lot of clarity, is there?
No, there isn't. And I think it's quite tough because ultimately it's a decision that people are going to have to make for themselves, and there's no like hard and fast rules to follow. So I think it's going to be quite challenging for people to think about, how they respond. I think for a lot of us, kind of the feeling is, it's way too soon to be talking about coming out of kind of like shielding and lockdown, and really a lot of people are, I guess, waiting for a vaccine to make it safe. But I think, on the flip side, it's kind of, realizing that there's probably never going to be a time when you can eliminate all risks. And I think even before the pandemic, we were taking daily risks in terms of colds and flu. So it kind of, I guess we've got to be aware that there is no risk-free decision that you can make. So it's up to people to decide what level of risk that they're happy with accepting, really. I think that's going to be very difficult because it's going to depend very much on individuals and how they approach the idea of risk, and also, how much kind of lockdown has affected them. And I think, so some people are just now thinking about kind of bringing back like carers and care packages, and that would be a step that people need to consider. Others are thinking about potentially going out and about again, and some have already started to do that. So I think it's about I don't know, just weighing everything up, really, and thinking about what's right for you.
And I think it's those relationships with your medical professionals, with your team, talking to people, talking to those that know you, talking to people that have got your best interests at heart, and thinking about, what's right for you. I think, like you said, John, weighing up the risks, that depends on individuals' knowledge, their confidence, their understanding. For me, probably life won't change a lot for a little while, just because I'm so susceptible to infections, as many of us are. It's not so much COVID that's a problem, it's any infection.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of tempered for that. But again, I can't be in a bubble for the rest of my life.
Mm.
There's a certain amount of risk that you take going to events, like sort of viruses and coughs and colds. And, I've had staff come in with sickness and diarrhea bugs before, that have not told me. And that's been, a risk that obviously we've had to deal with when I found out. I think it's just about weighing that up. But I would be very much guided by talking with my mum, the nurses that look after me, the PAs that look after me, and my medical team. I've got a particular consultant he's not my main consultant, but he kind of takes an overarching view, and his authority I kind of take a lot of weight on. But also with one of the charities that I work with, our medical advisor, he actually said there's not going to be a second, wave of COVID, and he's encouraging that even all these tracky ventilated children go back to school. He's saying actually the risk of them catching it is no greater than catching something else. Now things are starting to recover, and we need to start building up people's immune systems again, because the more you isolate someone, the more you take away their immune system's ability to adapt. So it's a very difficult situation. I just think we all don't know, and we could all go out and do something tomorrow and get another infection. We could all go out and nothing would happen. It's what's right for you and what you feel comfortable doing, because at the end of that, it's your life. But again, for us, I've got to think about, if I'm going out to a conference, for example, I'm taking with me a nurse and a carer, and their rights equally.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be as simple as kind of just like listening to what your doctor says, because I think different health professionals are going to have different opinions on this. Different health professionals will have different attitudes to risk, and on what's acceptable. So there aren't going to be any clear answers for people, I think.
There's no right answer, is there, in this?
No.
I see that as well. I think that certainly in communities like ours, rare disease communities, the muscular dystrophy community, or whatever conditions people have, you always look to sort of, well, I have this, so what's the, what's the recipe for me? What should I do? But actually, I think this is something where we're seeing that everyone's different, not just medically, but also practically, in terms of the way they live their lives and organize their lives. So things can be changed and adapted differently for someone as to someone else. And I think that it's so multifaceted and multivaried that, perhaps that's a liberating way of seeing it, Lucy, that there's no wrong answer. Because I think that that's certainly what I've seen a lot of people are actually afraid of and scared of, is that perhaps there is a wrong answer and perhaps they'll do it, and perhaps, it's tough, isn't it? Bryan, what are your thoughts?
It's tricky to decide what to do. It helps a lot, because John and Lucy said, and I think you've got to go by what the advice is at the time and what you think is good for you. Unless you have a medical team, talk to your support workers and my family, just decide what's the safest thing to do. And if it's safer stay there, you just need to stay longer. But you can't stay there all the time. You need, after 3 months, it's just too much. You need to go for a drive, or go out for a wee walk or something, and just to get out of the house, so you're not just stuck in. But just because I go out quite a lot for you, about 3 times a week, so it's quite hard not going out that much.
Have you not been out the house at all? Do you have a garden? Have you been
I've
out?
been in the garden, and today I went for my first walk because they've changed the guidelines to Scotland, and I've been for a drive twice. That's the only times I've been out.
I think it's also mental well-being. That's another big thing to say. It's the longer in a way you isolate, the harder it is to reintegrate. And I think there's a lot of mental health struggles that people have had beforehand, having now. I've known people that are very strong people generally that have completely crumbled during lockdown because they just can't cope with the risk, the stress, the information. But I do think the longer you isolate yourself, the harder it is to reintegrate. And we need to think about, empowering people as much as possible to make that choice, to do what's right for them, to weigh up the information that they have at their hand, to have those conversations. And actually, it is about taking accountability for your own decision, but you're either going to get COVID or you're not. You're either going to, be at risk or you're not. You can't protect against every risk. And I think, everyone's got to take the risk that they're comfortable taking. But we don't know that level of risk. We cannot say there's a 50% chance if you go to this place, you're going to get it. So you've got to just do what's right within your comfort zone, but also make sure that you are meeting your own emotional, mental, physical, and overall well-being needs, and that you can keep up your level of confidence to do things, to go out and to take those risks, because part of life is taking risks.
I think I found today when I went out for my walk, you're a bit wary of other people, but just looking out for other people and things more than you used to be. You just got to be careful, I think.
Yeah, another perspective for me is, living with my husband, it's not only my emotional well-being that I got to think about, it's my partner's as well. And I think, not being able to kind of like see friends and kind of go places is going to, well, I guess it's taking more of a toll on him. And I think, I've got to factor that into whatever I decide to do as well. That it's not just me to kind of think about. So I've been thinking, are there scenarios that I'd be happy with in terms of the level of risk that would actually, allow him to kind of get out and about as well. And I think, particularly even things like him when eventually he'll go back to working in like away from home, then I've got to think about what I'm happy with. And I think I've also come to the conclusion that I'm happy to go to an outdoor area and potentially meet up with some friends. And you know, I'm happy to kind of accept that risk as long as I feel it's safe. Just so that we're kind of, you know, thinking about everyone's well-being, really.
I know, because I've seen my sister. She didn't come down over all the time in lockdown. She lives in London, but she's come recently, obviously, as we've started to come out of lockdown. But again, she's in a mask. She doesn't take a mask off in my presence. They tend to sit in the garden, obviously, and social distance between the two of them. There's no hugging, there's no kissing. But, you know, tempering that risk, you know, not seeing my sister versus, you know, taking that little bit of risk. But also, I always think about this, you know, my sister does suffer a lot as a result of my illness, and I don't want to take away her ability to have her family. She misses out on so much because of me already, and not because of me as a person, but because of the situation we're in. I couldn't then start saying to my sister, well, you can't come in. So it was like, how do we make this the safest possible? And I think that's it. It's not saying don't do something. It's about managing how you can make it as safe as possible when you do that thing. You know, meeting people outside, wearing masks, keeping the 2-meter rule, not hugging or kissing or touching anyone, not touching each other's glasses when you've drunk, you know, all that kind of things. There's things you can do to manage risk and manage cross-infection without completely eradicating that situation from happening.
Yeah, I think it's certainly been the perfect storm of kind of how defense of the physical has impacted on the mental, and it caused us, I think, a lot in society to kind of reason with how we can balance the two, isn't it? And perhaps find new ways to build, you know, to find our mental strength and to push through things, you know, as well as reasoning with balancing the two, isn't it? Risk versus mental health. So yeah, I mean, I know, for example, my brother Andrew is, you know, I mean, he's always out and about doing a variety of different things. I'm driving him up and down to Manchester in normal circumstances, but it's been really great to see how he's been able to adapt. You know, doing a lot of his stuff on Zoom, and you know, I remember when Zoom was just an app that we'd use to do muscle out stuff, and now the whole world uses it. But yeah, I think there are a lot of positives to take from it all. I don't know, what about you guys? What have you taken?
Yeah, definitely. I think actually it's allowed me to connect with friends again who I hadn't seen or spoken to in a while, and I think, you know, that I guess it's that shared experience that we've all had, and I think you know, I've done kind of weekly quizzes with friends that I kind of I used to see every week, but then I moved away, and you know, life happened, and I think I probably only saw them maybe every 3 months or so, and even then kind of not all together as a group, whereas, you know, we've all kind of now been kind of interacting on a weekly basis. I kind of hope that kind of thing that will stick around. I think, you know, maybe not on a weekly basis as people have things to do, but I hope that, you know, the kind of connections that we've reignited will carry on. And I think yeah, I do hope that, you know, when everyone goes back to normal, that we don't lose that. I think from a practical point of view as well, I'm thinking about, you know, some of the things I put in place in terms of PPE and what have you. I might carry that on because actually, you know, that's given me protection from other viruses as well, and, you know, colds and flu. So even if we do, you know, manage to get a vaccine for coronavirus, actually a lot of the steps that I've taken will be really useful in the future, just to kind of keep me generally more healthy. So I think that's another big positive to come out of it.
I've definitely learned a lot as well, kind of through this process, about myself, about our community. I really hope that community spirit that's kind of been ignited, where people have come together, there's been more volunteering, there's been more checking in with neighbours, checking people are okay, do you need anything? That I hope we will keep, because I think our communities nowadays have become so disconnected, and yet we're in the connected generation, yet we don't talk to people, we don't check in with people how they are. I think that really needs to stay. like you, John, I think my practice with how I manage infection control will probably change. Will probably, keep some of the aspects that I've had to put in place because of COVID as a way of protecting myself in future against anything. I also think it's given me a chance to kind of reevaluate some of the work I do. I think when you get on that rabbit wheel, you go to an event, you go to an event, you go to a meeting, you go to an event, you just keep doing things. It's sitting there thinking, actually, where does my time give the most benefit to the most amount of people? Where does it serve the best purpose for me and what I want to achieve? It's been a real evaluation point. I think everything suddenly stopped when lockdown first happened. And then within a couple of weeks, everyone picked up again. But I think it was almost like a reset. And I thought, hang on, I need to think about where my time is best spent. So I think I'm going to be more, I don't know, I'm going to manage my time better and make sure that I'm doing the things that I want to achieve and that will make the biggest impact. I don't know about you, John, what your original prognosis was for surviving, and like your Bryan, but 10 years beyond when they expected me to survive, I haven't got time to waste. And it's just giving me that passion to say, actually, I need to spend my time on the things that best serve what I want to do and how I can make an impact.
Like John, I've found it good to reconnect with people I've not spoke to for a long time. People I used to work with, and expanding and doing some art on my computer and stuff. I've quite enjoyed doing that. And I've enjoyed our family things, like family quizzes and seeing talk to family from overseas and stuff. That's been good as well. And I just give you a chance to reevaluate what you're doing and things. What was he saying? Because I'm 43 this year, so it's quite a long time after what I expected, and John as well, probably when we were young. So it just gives you a chance to think what else you can do and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's really useful to kind of, think about the positives and what we can take away from it. I think, it's we're not quite there that we can talk about. It's all over. What do we do now? Kind of thing. I think a lot of us we're still going to be in it for quite a while yet. So I think, it's good to reflect on that. But I think it's good to kind of, I don't know, just prepare ourselves kind of for having to kind of keep this up and to learn good things and positive things from each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a while yet, and I kind of I'm ready for a little bit longer, but yeah, I think we all still need to support each other through the process, and I think one thing for me that's been really important, as Lucy said earlier, was keeping busy, and I think that's the biggest thing. So if people are struggling, then they should get in touch really and find out kind of how they can keep themselves busy, because I've got 100 kind of ideas that people could get involved in, and if people want to as a kind of community to come together and to do some interesting work, then kind of come to me because I've got lots of ideas.
Yeah, I've been talking to some people and they've been struggling. I've been trying to encourage them to give me a call or try and do stuff, but it's quite tough for some people, I think, as well. I think with the changes in the rules in Scotland, we can see actually go physically being like a outdoor space to see somebody's going to help a lot of people that are shielding. I think being able to go for walks will help a lot of people shielding in Scotland now as well. So that's something a benefit for today's changes.
Yeah, I think it's just about encouraging people to reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to your friend, to your community, to a colleague. Don't be afraid. Reach out, see what you can do, and you never know what can come from reconnecting with an old friend, reconnecting with an old colleague. There's so much we can do, and there's so much you can find online to keep yourself busy. And I think it's that's reaching out, it's having that confidence.
Yeah, I think kind of being in lockdown, it's very easy to get stuck in a rut, and I think kind of end up feeling like you're not being very productive, but you don't really kind of know where to get that motivation to actually move that shift that kind of cycle really. So I think you know, what I would say is little steps, and I think just getting involved in things can really help you kind of move forward and get out of that rut. So I think it's worth thinking for people that are lacking in motivation. You know, if you do kind of reach out and talk with others, then I think you can find that motivation to get out there again, really.
Well, thanks so much, guys. It's really interesting to share these experiences, and yeah, let's keep going and see how things develop. Thanks again, and we'll catch you all again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.